Welcome to Sharing Our Stories, the podcast where the vibrant tapestry of our community unfolds through the voices of its residents. Brought to you by the Chilton Public Library, this series invites you to embark on a journey of discovery as we delve into the personal narratives, cherished memories, and unique experiences that make our town truly special. Join us as we celebrate the diverse stories that weave together the fabric of Chilton, Wisconsin, one captivating tale at a time. Sit back, listen, and let the power of storytelling connect us all. This is Sharing Our Stories.
It's Glennie Whitcomb here at the Chilton Public Library, excited to interview one of our community members, Charles Zarnoth of Zarnoth Brushworks. And thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it and are looking forward to hearing some of your stories.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And I was going to ask you, because you had told me, but I can't remember if you grew up in town or outside on a farm. Remind me.
I was one of the people that grew up in the country, but not on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up 3 miles south of Chilton, and my parents loved living in a rural area. They both grew up that way, and that's what they wanted.
Great.
So I grew up there, an only child, and because of that, I always want to stay around an area like this.
Mm-hmm. And were your parents from the area as well?
Yes. Going back a few generations.
Okay. And how can you share with us the story, the sort of thumbnail sketch, if there is one, of how and when Zarnoth Brushworks began? Because I can imagine how it started is very different from how it operates today, perhaps.
Yes. My father started Zarnoth Brushworks when he was 44 in 1949. He had been working for another manufacturing company that made sweepers. He worked in the broom department, making brooms that went on their sweepers. And he had this dream of having his own business. So he thought, I will go and sell broom bristles to cities that have sweepers, because most of the cities at this time refilled their own broom cores when the bristles wore down. So he gave his notice, wrote up some literature hand out to people, made a little display case of broom bristles to show to people, and started calling on municipalities. And he sold some broom bristles. But a lot of people would tell him, Joe that works for us is very slow. He takes forever to get this done. Henry quit about a month ago. We haven't been able to find anybody to replace him. My father heard this story many times and went back home to his garage, built a machine to refill broom cores. And that very, very soon became the major part of the business.
So the way he started ended up weaving its way into another niche out of necessity. And
Exactly.
he saw the opportunity. Aha. So how old were you when you first thought this would be your future?
Well, I grew up with my father at the time that he started the business. I started doing little chores for the business for a couple nickels for this and a couple nickels for that. I was very young. I continued doing that through high school, went to college for business administration. Always the thought that someday I'll probably come back to work in the business, which I did. Right after graduation, came back to Chilton, broke the news to my parents I was going to find an apartment. You could stay with us. I think it's time to be on my own. But I went to work with my father right away.
Mm-hmm. And until what year? What year did you retire, or have you retired from Zarnoth Brushworks?
Myself?
Yes.
I start to think I was in my 64s, and I start to remember my father retiring. And I start to feel it's about time that I do. When I'm 65, I will be gone. I always remembered how my father did it. He waited till he was 69. And he retired. He left. He would stop in once every day. He would go to the post office, bring the mail over. And I thought, okay, my time to retire. Okay, how shall we do this? Okay, I went to town every day. I had a cup of coffee, but I never brought the mail over.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I always did remember after my father's retirement that did stay in my mind was he would come every day, but he never would say, maybe you should do this way instead of the way you're doing it. And I always
That was
thought of that.
very wise.
And when I retired, my oldest son purchased the company from me. And I never suggested to him how he should be doing something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we started, I sort of jumped around a little bit. We were at the beginning, and then we were at where you passed the torch on.
Yes.
And then there was a whole lot of years in between.
Yes.
How did you see your business change throughout the course of those years? Did technology change? Did it stay about the same?
Our manufacturing process really has not changed. The materials we worked with changed greatly. Brooms used to be made out of vegetable materials, the broom bristles. And in the early 1960s, they turned into using a wire bristle or a plastic bristle. So great changes that way. The companies we bought materials from, the vegetable materials, came from companies that were small, family-run businesses. And the same thing when it switched over to the synthetic materials.
Those suppliers also?
Yes. Again, small family-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. How far did your materials have to come get to Chilton?
The original vegetable materials came from India, from stock from a palm plant,
mm-hmm.
and from Africa they came from a fiber from a tree.
That's quite some distance.
Yes, yeah. And there was a third fiber material that was actually made out of a southern hickory tree. They would split the tree and cut bristles that were 36 inches to 24 inches long, approximately a quarter-inch wide by, a little over a 1/16 of an inch thick. A very, very coarse material. It was good for digging in stiff debris. It had a very short lifespan.
So you need a lot of it. Yeah. I seem to remember my son in high school used to work, a lot of kids in high school, I remember, of my kids' generation. So this would have been like 15, 20 years ago. You offered a great opportunity for kids to get an idea of work life, of having a job. And what I recall being so appealing about it was the flexible hours that you had, so that kids could be in school and be in sports and do all those things, and yet also maybe make some money.
Yes.
How did you come up with that?
We needed more and more help to manufacture a small type of broom, which was a lot of handwork. And we needed to find people that could do this, and they could take their time doing it. There was a piecework job, and depending upon how many units they could fill an hour was dependent. That would be how much they would earn per hour. We always think back about the students that worked for us over the years, or many of them. We would be walking down the street in Green Bay. All at once, somebody would stop us on the sidewalk. Do you remember me? Little blank look on their face. I'm Joe. I used to work for you years ago. And quite often they would say, this was my first job, and I really learned how to do things in a dependable manner.
Mm-hmm. That was a great experience. That was a well thought. Does that still happen today, or is that?
Yes.
It does?
Yes. Today we have about a dozen part-time people, and there's 4 people that are clients of New Hope that work there. They are doing this type of work.
Your business has created job opportunities for all kinds of people in the community.
Yes.
Can you share a memorable success story or milestone for your manufacturing business that reflects its impact on the local community? Or
we supported some of the local community in purchasing things from them. Chilton Manufacturing built a number of trailers for us over the years. They manufactured parts that we would sell. We, besides selling brooms for street sweepers, we added a line of replacement parts for street sweepers. Some of them we would manufacture ourselves. Some we would have made locally or from other sources. What I do remember, I always said in business you have to be stubborn. You have to keep trying. I would call on potential new customers, and you have to learn rejection. That's part of it. And I would call back on these people once a year. Stop in again. Hi, I'm Charles. And after a while, some of them would remember me. And no, we're not interested. And then once or twice every year, I'd walk in the door, and all of a sudden this person was very excited to see me, and they would like to start purchasing from us. Things like that stick in your mind, reminding you to keep attempting.
Yeah, that moment of opportunity might not be when it's going
to come.
Yeah. Right. Yep. What was the most difficult thing about owning your own business?
That's easy. Spending over 100 nights a year in motels away from home. One thing you learned after a while about being away from home and eating in restaurants, food isn't too thrilling in a restaurant after a while.
So a lot of yours was sales. So you were out
Yes.
drumming up sales for your business.
Yes. Our company covers Wisconsin and the neighboring northern Illinois, part of Iowa, a good share of Minnesota and upper Michigan. Most of these places we could reach in one day.
But that's a long day. Some of those, yeah. What lessons would you say your work life has taught you?
People are nice. A lot of people I would call on, especially in my earlier years. I'd go out there and I would be talking to the head of a municipality. And the person would take time talking to me, encouraging me. Maybe they weren't even going to buy anything right now, but I've always remembered that.
What kind of advice do you have for anyone considering starting a small business of their own? Yours was maybe not so small, but going into business for themselves.
You have to study, think about this, talk to people, make up your own mind. Because it all ends up in making up your own mind. One thing we must mention about family in the business.
Yes.
I have 2 children that are working in the business. And my son, oldest son, I always knew would probably come into the business. And then I had a daughter graduate from college. And I thought, well, she's graduated from college. I supported her for 4 years. Kathy, what are you going to do? Never talked about this. Well, I thought maybe I would come to work with the business for a while. I stood there for about 30 seconds, not saying anything, having a lot of thoughts going through my mind. One was I had seen a number of family businesses where children came in, and then they didn't like each other after a while. And I asked her, how is this going to work with you and Alan someday? Perhaps something could happen to me. And she had this all thought out. Someday, you'll retire. Alan will own the business. I will work in the office now. Someday, I'll become office manager. And that's how it's worked out. And they're best friends.
Oh, that's great. That's great. They have a unified vision, or they've figured it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And how satisfying for you to know that the business continues.
Yes.
That's a real gift for everybody. So I think that about wraps it up for today. But we're really pleased you came in and shared some of your story with us.
Glad to.
And it's a great pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we bring this episode of Sharing Our Stories to a close, we want to express our gratitude to all the storytellers who generously shared a piece of their lives with us. Your stories have added depth and richness to the tapestry of our community, reminding us that every narrative, no matter how big or small, contributes to the beautiful mosaic of Chilton. If you have a story you'd like to share, or you've been inspired by today's episode, we encourage you to reach out. The Chilton Public Library is here to celebrate, preserve, and amplify the voices that make our town unique. Thank you for joining us on this storytelling journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep the spirit of our community alive through the power of your stories. This was Sharing Our Stories.